Everyone, it's Thursday, Parshas Pinchas, and I want to dedicate this year L'Zecha Nishmas Benny's father, whose Yortzeit is coming up in a few days.
Yaakov
Ben Ezra.
Also Rabbi Felder.
Rabbi Felder's, Dr. Felder's brother. What was your brother's name? David Ben Zev. Neshama Heaven Aliyah. And this week, Parshas Pinchas, I saw, as I always say, but since Bob has never been here at one of my shiurim, I just want to preface it that almost nothing I say is my own. So it's stuff that I plagiarize and take from other people. I try to put it together in a enjoyable way, and don't shoot the messenger. In other words, if you don't agree with what I say,
everything coming from your mouth. What are you talking about?
Well, maybe it's coming from my mouth, but if it's something that I myself have thought of, then I will explicitly say so. But like I said, 90% of what I'm saying is not my own. Today's share is mostly I heard from Rabbi Frand, and then sometimes I hear things and I don't remember where I heard it from, and I wish I did, because as it says in Pirkei Avos, Ha'omer Dover B'Shem Omro Mevi Gulul Olam, and one of the ways, there's 48 ways to acquire Torah, and one of the ways is to repeat things in the name of that original person. And in fact, of all the 48 ways, that is the last one, and that is the only one that the Peri gives you an example of Vatomer Esther B'Shem Mordechai. So it would be nice if I remembered the source of everything that I knew, but I don't. So I apologize to the authors of those vart. Anyway, there is an interesting Zohar, and before anybody gets offended about what I'm going to talk today, you wait till the end, and maybe you won't be so offended. Today we're going to talk about the business of wearing a yarmulke. And what does it have to do with this week's Parsha? Because the Zohar in this week's Parsha says that Osir l'Talmud Chacham, a Talmud Chacham is not allowed to walk daladamas for, and he says because Melo Chol Haaretz Kavoda, God is all over the world, and you should always wear a yarmulke. And more so, of course, is when you're saying something that has Hashem's name, of course you should wear a yarmulke. Now, it's interesting that there's a Zohar last week's Parsha, which pretty much says the same thing. It says that, but he says it a little different. He says that the reason that you should wear a yarmulke, because the Shechina is above you, and that's how most of us think about when we talk. We're thinking about yarmulke. If I ask the average person, why do you wear a yarmulke? He says, because God is above you, and you wear a yarmulke. Exactly why wearing the yarmulke means that something is above you, how that, you sort of like have to rationalize, well, if there's a yarmulke on top of me, maybe there's God on top of me, and I'm below something, so...
just be a reminder also.
Oh, just a reminder, In general, we have to remind ourselves, that the Shechina is above us, and that we have to aspire to be like the Shechina, as opposed to, I heard this, and I don't remember, I may have heard this from Rabbi Weiss in my shul in Staten Island, I don't remember, that, if you go into a cities, especially in Europe, they have a big clock in the central of town. We know about Big Ben, but if you've been to European cities, and I've been to quite a few of them, there's always a clock tower. So the question is, why is the clock tower so high? So let's see if you can come up with an answer. Why is the clock tower high? Anybody have a reason? Why is it high up?
So everybody can see it.
So the obvious answer is so everybody can see it. There's another reason. Okay, can you think of another reason why it's high up? So this is like I'm not sure. I wish I could remember who said this. The other reason is because let's say you're home and you have a clock in the house, clock like that, and then you take out your cell phone, and you see on your cell phone, there's a time, and that the time on the cell phone is pretty accurate. It's more accurate than your, Radio Shack clock that you plug in. So what do?
Adjust it.
You adjust the clock, the Radio Shack clock, to coincide with yours. If the clock was down, people would adjust that. Everybody would run and adjust that clock to coincide with their own clock. So therefore, we keep it up. So so we have to adhere to that time, and not that time should adhere to us. So we don't put it within reach. Okay, the same with God. Like people in this world who are not cognizant of that Hashem runs the whole world and things happen, we want to sort of change and adjust Hashem's Torah to fit to us. Well, it has to be the other way around. We have to adjust ourselves to fit to Hashem.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but if that's about this, how come ladies not wearing yarmulke?
How come what?
Ladies.
Okay, all right, okay. So it's a very good question. I don't have the answer.
Why not?
And I don't have the answer. Ladies obviously have to cover their hair also, so they cover it in a different way. And there is an issur in the Torah that men and women should not dress the same, and maybe it falls into that category. But let me try to go through this because we started like 10 minutes late, and I want to cover a few things. I don't know. I don't know the answer, other than that there should be a distinction between men and women. If anybody wants to proffer an answer.
That's a very good reason.
Okay.
But isn't that also part why women wear a shiur?
Ladies are on a higher spiritual.
Okay, maybe they're in a higher, and maybe,
But don't they wear a shiur because they think they got to cover their head?
Yeah.
No, let's say they are not married. Still they have.
So the question is, an unmarried woman also. That's a very good question. Anyway, so where do we get this concept of covering, of wearing a yarmulke? Where is it from? So there are actually several Gemaras that talk about this. There's a Gemara in Kedushin. I looked it up last night. It says over here. Rav Huna berei Rabbi Yeshua. Rav Huna, the son of Yeshua, said, "Lo imazge arba amas begila rosh, omar shchina lamala meroishai." He says over here. It says in the Gemara that Rav Huna, Rabbi, is the air conditioner automatically on? Or we have to do something? It's a lot hot. Okay.
It's cheaper if we get
So it says over here. It says in the Gemara here that you cannot move 4 amas without covering your hair. Now, there's also a Gemara where it's I think it's a Gemara in Shabbos, and as usual, when I'm looking for whatever Masechta I'm looking for, I usually don't find. There's tomorrow if I look for Kedushin won't be here. But anyway, so there's a Gemara in Shabbos, I believe, that says that Rav Nachman, when he was a little boy, used to wear. He wasn't Rav Nachman then. He was Nachman Allah, whatever his name was. His mother called him, and he wore a yarmulke. He covered his head because of fear of Shemayim, because of Morish Shemayim. So we see that the Rambam in the Moreh Nevuchim, the guide to the perplexed, he talks over there. Also the concept of wearing a yarmulke because he says the famous pasuk that's on many parochas of Dor and Kodesh, Shvisi Hashem lenegdi samid. They should always visualize that Hashem is in front of you, and if He's in front of you, you should have fear for Him, and you should have respect for Him, and you should wear a yarmulke. Now, so the question is this a halacha? And if you don't wear a yarmulke, you're over some kind of an aveira, or is this sort of like optional? We see nowadays many people, whether it's even from people, 100% Shomer Shabbos, of various, whether it's Sephardi or whatever, they sometimes wear yarmulke, sometimes don't. So what's this whole business? Is this necessarily an absolute requirement, like wearing tzitzis or tefillin? You have to wear yarmulke. Does it fall into the same category?
You're looking for the men's room?
Yeah. Inevitably, everybody will go there first.
Because it's the washing station. It's
No. Okay. So is it's brought down in the Kol Boy. I don't know if any of you heard the Kol Boy. He brings down actually from the Maram Rutenberg and from various different places that this business of wearing a yarmulke is only a midas Hasidim. Hasidim, I don't mean Hasidim like in Williamsburg. The concept of midas Hasidim means more pious people, more people who are more tuned into and connected,
Humble.
maybe humble, whatever. Like that, it's not usher to go without it, but it's a good thing to do, and it's something that somebody, the Mishnah Brewer sometimes uses the expression Bal HaNefesh. Have you seen that expression, the Mishnah Brewer? The Mishnah Brewer sometimes when,
Yeah, of course.
When he gives a halacha, he says, Mutter, Ubal HaNefesh Machmir Atzmut. Somebody who's a Bal HaNefesh. I mean, somebody who's more
Worry about his
more worried about himself. So it's sort of like a lifnim mishuras adin type of a thing. If you want to go a little bit overboard. Now, and he brings proof because we see a lot of times. There's another Gemara. It's also on Shabbos that talks about somebody who had certain things. I don't remember exactly. Had certain good things happen to him, and he says, you know why these good things happened to me? Because I always wore a yarmulke. And we see that actually in a lot of places in Gemara, and there's a Gemara that talks about when somebody lived a long life, bameh harachta yomim. With what did you do to be able to live a longer life? So it gives like things that the various people did to live a longer life. For example, one of the things that I took upon myself, one of the things it says in the Gemara, with what did you merit to live a long life? Because whenever they took out the Torah, I went up to greet it and I kissed it. So I try always to do that, never to miss an opportunity to greet the Torah and kiss it. There's all kinds of things. The Torah specifically says, actually, others besides that, but specifically with kibbud avim, honoring parents, and sending away the mother bird when you take the babies. Over there, the Torah tells you that He'll give you a long life. I once gave a shiur. What's the connection between the two of them? And in fact, there's not only a connection, there actually seems to be a contradiction. One of them says to honor your mother. One of them says to send away the mother. So I explained that one time, how it actually is one and the same, and it's not a contradiction.
Maybe next time I'd like to hear that.
Especially you, because Benny has a beautiful collection of birds right here in Atlantic City.
And the point is that it's not for racham. It's not. You're not doing for racham because we don't do it with any other animal.
Right.
We only do it with a bird.
Right.
So why
So
does Hashem tell us to do it
exactly.
only with a bird?
Okay, so we'll talk about that because I have 3 minutes
Go ahead.
left. Okay, so the Maram Rutenberg says that from this you can bring proof that it's not a requirement, because it says that you merited certain things because you wore a yarmulke. We won't say that if it's an absolute halacha. The fact that he's using it, that you went overboard and you wore a yarmulke, and that's why you merited to have certain good things happen to you. From here, he brings proof that it's not necessarily an absolute din like tzitzis and tefillin. Now, the Beis Yosef, he actually has a conflicting thing. He agrees that it's not a din, that it's only optional. But then he says that when we make a bracha in the morning, every morning we make a bracha. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam. We all either said it. I'm going to say it momentarily. Otei Yisrael b'Sephora. What does that mean?
The crown.
So he says that's referring to the yarmulke, that we're putting a crown to beautify us. That we make a bracha on this. So from him we see that it looks like it's a halacha, and we even make a bracha on it. However, he then switches gears and he says, and even according to those that say that it's not a din, it's sort of optional, you still can make a bracha. So we still haven't come to a definitive thing. So how do we find a definitive thing? So we look in the Shulchan Aruch, and the Shulchan Aruch says the following. There's a halacha. It says that Osir leilach b'mekomo zakufa, you're not allowed to walk around in a haughty, upright state, v'lo yelach b'daladamas b'gila rosh, and you shouldn't walk 4 amas uncovering your hair. So the Chidah brings proof from this that it's only optional, because where it talks about walking haughty and with gaiva and with, like Ahmed, there it says osir. But when he doesn't say v'osir leilach b'daladamas, he says v'lo yelach, you shouldn't go. So we see from this that it's optional. However, it's not an absolute proof. Why? Because even though something is optional, it may turn out that once it's optional, it becomes a halacha already. And the Marshal brings down an example. He brings down that a medrash. I've heard this medrash. The medrash says that when we say Krishma, we stand or we sit.
Sit.
We sit. Why do we sit?
You have more concentration.
Okay. Oh, so what?
Because Hillel did it.
Because Hillel did it. Okay. So the Medrash says this is what Hashem says. Hashem says like this: that by Goyim, let's say a king sent out a proclamation. Morning, Ari. Yeah, sorry I didn't respond to your email. But by Goyim, when let's say a king would send a proclamation, somebody would come in from the White House, or let's say in the olden days from a king with a proclamation. Everybody stands up and they take off their hat. We're going to hear something that the king wrote. He says, Hashem says, I'm not going to be matriach, my people. When I tell them to say Krishma, I don't need them to stand up, and I don't need them to uncover their head for me. You don't have to show me respect by uncovering. So from here we see actually the opposite, that the whole idea of respect would actually be to uncover your head. And Hashem is telling us, you don't have to do it for me. You don't have to stand. You don't have to uncover your head. Just daven, and that's good enough. So from here we see almost the opposite. However, yet still it's no proof, because we have the thing, Hashem also did not want to be matriachas. I'm just going to finish with this point. And he says, I'm not going to make you go out and chase animals to bring me sacrifices. So we don't bring sacrifices from chayas, only from domesticated animals, because he didn't want to be matriachas to chase animals. But because Hashem said that, now it's also to bring it, an animal, a chaya. So we see that once Hashem did something not to matriachas, we're not allowed to do it. Anyway, I didn't get through even halfway what I wanted to speak. Maybe we'll continue tomorrow.
Mincha.
Okay, we'll finish by Mincha.
I wonder here.